Hey, it's John Lee Dumas of EO Fire, and it's The Entrepreneurial You, the show for dedicated and passionate Caribbean entrepreneurs seeking daily inspiration, brought to you by author, speaker, and award-winning entrepreneur Heneka Watkis-Porter. You must be prepared to ignite.
Coming up on this episode of The Entrepreneurial You.
If you are searching for something, you want to know something, I would rather trust Google than Amazon because that's what they're known for. They're known for their amazing search. They have created now Google Podcasts, which means they really are diving into voice first in that sense that they want to answer you possibly with a podcast or some kind of audio training or recording and get you hooked there.
Hi, I'm Heneka Watkis-Porter, your inspirational leader and host of the Entrepreneurial You podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Jamaica Stock Exchange. And now let's go to today's episode. My guest on episode 84 of the Entrepreneurial You podcast is a success strategist, storyteller, speaker, and the host of the Sigrun Show podcast. She's a creator of Samba, the MBA program for online entrepreneurs, and in only 4 years, she built a multi-7-figure lifestyle business. I'm super thrilled to welcome Sigrun to the Entrepreneurial You podcast. Welcome, Sigrun. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. What, if anything, do you know about Jamaica?
Well, I know it's beautiful there, and all the people that I know from Jamaica are fun. And, you know, internationally, it's always the movie with the bobsledding that has made Jamaica really known everywhere in the world. So fun people and a beautiful country.
Awesome. So have you ever been here, and how many times? If you have?
No, not been yet. So that's one of the places I still need to go to.
Yes, ma'am. And when you do, please hook me up.
I will.
Awesome. So I did mention some of the things that you do in the intro, but I'd like to go a little further for you to just take a moment and tell us a little more about your background and your journey into success.
So I come from Iceland, small island in the, well, maybe not so small island, but let's say few inhabitants, only 330,000 inhabitants, Iceland in the North Atlantic. And growing up, I knew I wanted to study abroad. Typically, when you live on a small island, you want to get away and then you want to come back. And so I went to Germany, 20 years old, and studied architecture. As I was finishing architecture, I realized I did not want to work as an architect. And I moved over to computer science because the internet was taking off and I felt that was so exciting. So I was able to do the switch. I'm still a licensed architect. I finished also my computer science degree. And then I started to work and I immediately became in charge of a department and quickly thereafter CEO of a software company. So I felt I needed to study business as well. So I ended up with 4 master's degrees and was 10 years a CEO before I started my own business.
4 master's degrees. Wow.
My mom thinks it's too much and she wants to make sure that I don't study anything more. But I think I'm constantly learning. We need to be constantly learning. And I've done numerous online courses since I did my last official study.
Mm-hmm. Because I actually believe that we are, perpetual students of life. We're always learning, we never ever stop. We may stop formal education, and those long certifications and stuff, but we never ever stop learning. And that's the interesting thing about life.
Yeah. I think it's actually, it's so interesting because I have all these degrees and I was always a good student. Today, I value much more when people take action, So I don't think education in the form that maybe I had it is what people really need today. I do think some kind of a formal education is good because you learn to do research, you learn to write a paper, you learn to kind of stick to deadlines, you learn to some self-discipline because you might not actually have someone telling you what to do every day. These are all good things, but ultimately the education expires quite fast. If you learn computer science what you learn in computer science 10 years later, everything has changed. The programming language has changed. But what has not changed are the methods on how to learn new things, how to quickly implement things. And you often build an amazing network. So I'm not, speaking against formal education, but I think it's just impossible for formal education to keep up with society today.
Mm-hmm. And that is absolutely true. And if ever it's true in any area, it is in the area, as you mentioned, of technology, information technology, computing. That has changed significantly. I remember back in high school when I did computer science, it was called, Lotus. I remember Lotus 1, 2, 3. Now, who does that now? It's all about Excel and the Microsoft Office suite, etc. So that information is so outdated, but at least it introduced me to the computer.
Yes.
Anyway, so we're going to move into what we're really here to talk about, and it is voice first. Now, I mentioned in my email to you a couple of weeks ago that I randomly picked up Gary V's Crushing It, right, at a boutique bookshop. And I saw the chapter on voice first, and that really, really excited me. Now, that zeal, of course, led me to your website where I listened to your podcast on that particular episode of on voice first. And now I'm excited to dive in. What is voice first?
Voice first is the future of devices that you speak to, and they either speak back to you the answer, or they list it on a screen. So typical voice first devices are already in your hands if you have a phone. If you have a mobile phone, you can already speak to it. You can say Siri, and you can say, hey, Google. So people already have it, and they don't really know it. The next version of voice first devices are Alexa. It's been around for several years. They are leading this in terms of voice first devices, where the Alexa on my table, I have to have it turned off now, otherwise it would speak to us all the time every time I say Alexa. And it has a screen. So I can speak to it. I can say, Alexa, start my day. And then a screen shows up and it says, I'm playing CNN briefing, or Sigrun Sparks, or Gary V, whatever I've subscribed to. The way I subscribe to things on Alexa, I go on my phone and there's an app, Alexa app, and I can find all the briefings, all the skills, everything that people have created that I can listen to. And there are daily shows. For instance, mine is a daily show, and CNN has a daily briefing, Gary has a daily briefing, and you can subscribe to these briefings. And then there are also skills. You can have someone help you with cooking, or help your child to brushing its teeth in the evening. So that's an Alexa skill. Mm-hmm. To move on to other devices, of course, Apple and Google have devices now. There is a rumor that Facebook is creating their own device as well, because what we think will happen is that people will pick one company. They will pick Amazon or Google or Facebook or Apple, and will fill their home with these devices. Mm. And they will have, devices in every room, basically.
You know what is interesting? As you talk about, you talk to Alexa and stuff. I am so intrigued these days that, sometimes I'm sitting on my computer working and I get a little bored or tired and I want to just, switch things up a bit. I go to Siri and I speak to Siri, and we have a whole conversation going on, and it's hilarious. Now, I remember just recently, having learned about voice first and everything, I came home, I sat in front of my television. I went to Amazon Fire TV, said to Alexa, please find the Entrepreneurial You podcast, which is my podcast. And before you know it, the podcast was actually playing. I'm like, wow, this is the day and age that I am living in. I get to experience this amazing stuff. So essentially, voice first is just speaking into a device and that returning to you some information, whether it be audio still, or on, or you're looking at the response via a screen. That's a good summary, is it?
That's a good summary. It also goes further in terms of having a fridge or a toaster or a coffee machine or any kind of devices. So if you think of any kind of electronics you have at home today, a vacuum cleaner, ironing, device, anything that is operated with electronics could be a voice-first device in the future. Imagine your fridge. You don't even have to speak to it, but you could, and it's going to order automatically. Let's say you always want a yogurt every morning, and now you're running out of yogurt. The fridge is not going to necessarily wait for you to ask. It might actually speak up and say, hey, we're running out of yogurt. Do you want me to order some? And you say yes.
I love that life. I can get used to that life, Sigrun. It's amazing stuff. So we talked a little about the various technologies. We mentioned briefly Amazon, there is Apple, and of course the room of Facebook, Microsoft, and Google. But, if you could just share a little overview, what you think is the advantage of one over the other, and what are the particular specific uses that one will have versus the other predominantly.
So if we just look at the voice first speakers, because that's really what many of us are talking about. I know you already have the phones, but I think what is really going to take off now, especially this year and next year, is that more people are going to have one of those speakers. Now, Alexa has a huge advantage. Amazon has a huge advantage that they already have been on the market way longer than Google and Apple. So I do think they are going to win this game for now. Whether they win this game forever, I'm not a futurist, but for now, I have Alexa, and I have multiple Alexas. I also have the Apple Pod and the Google, but just as testing devices. The advantage of the different devices is that Alexa is way ahead. So there's a lot of people that have created these briefings that I talked about. Briefings is a daily thing. You subscribe to a briefing, and you could have CNN tell you the news every day, or you can use a skill and say, how do I create a cocktail? And there's going to be someone who has created a skill for it. And then what Amazon ultimately wants you to do is to buy. So, of course, I had to turn this off because I was testing my Alexa, and I said, buy Gary Vee's latest book. And it just bought it. And I got a message on my phone that the book was on its way, and I could luckily cancel the order. So Amazon wants you to buy. They are not creating Alexa for you to just chat all day long and have fun. Ultimately, they want to sell you stuff that is otherwise available on the Amazon.com website. That's one of the reasons they've also bought, they have bought now a food giant in the US. They basically want to deliver you groceries, books, electronics, anything you might want to purchase. I don't think they're selling cars yet, but who knows in the future. Who knows? Anything you might want to purchase, Amazon wants to be there, and Alexa is the tool to get there. And that's why Alexa is going to be winning in the future. For now, maybe not in the future, but for now, Alexa is winning because there's just more Alexa devices out there. Mm-hmm. Now, Google obviously has search. So if you are searching for something, you want to know something, I would rather trust Google than Amazon because that's what they're known for. They're known for their amazing search. And they have created now Google Podcasts, which means they really are diving into voice first in that sense that they want to answer you possibly with a podcast or some kind of audio training or recording and get you hooked there. So people who value search, they're maybe not so into buying from Amazon.com. They will be loving Google. But Apple, I'm a huge Apple fan. So obviously I had to get the Apple HomePod as well, also for testing purposes. But the speakers on Apples are by far the best. So anyone that appreciates who is, good audio sound, which we podcasters generally do, we will love the Apple HomePod. I had speakers here at home, and now I have the Apple HomePod. I'm even thinking of giving the speakers away. the Apple HomePod is so good.
So we looked at Google, we looked at Alexa, Amazon, and Apple. How about Microsoft?
So I haven't looked into Microsoft myself, so I cannot speak to that. But of course, Microsoft and Facebook, they want a piece of the pie. They're not one of the top 3 yet. Everybody wants to play along. And if you really want to be part of the future, which everyone believes will be voice first, or not everyone, we are convincing that everyone will be believing in it after listening to this episode.
Exactly.
Is everyone wants the piece of the pie. So I want to explain a little bit why we believe voice first is the future. People are busy. We know how video is so popular, on YouTube and Facebook Live. YouTube is really popular. It's a second largest search engine. And then Facebook is pushing Facebook Live. But honestly, I'm not a huge video viewer. I do think it's kind of wasting my time. And podcast, on the other hand, or voice first, doesn't waste your time because you're doing something else at the same time. So you can be watching TV and you speak to your fridge and you can make an order and you can continue your movie and you didn't even make a break. You cannot do that with video. You can also be, walking somewhere out there and you're listening to a podcast, or you are walking around your home and you're speaking to Alexa and learning something new. Maybe you're learning a new language. Maybe you're learning how to make a cocktail or how to make, a rice pudding or whatever you want to learn. And you're doing 2 things at the same time. More and more what we've seen in the last years, and this is going to be even more in the future years, is that people don't have time. Actually, we were talking about this at the conference that I went to in New York, is that if you look at asking someone for time versus money, it's the priority is going to be you rather pay for something than lose your time. So if you can, for instance, save time, that's going to be more and more valuable. Why is Uber so successful, or Airbnb and other things? Often it's about the time saving.
We are going to take a break right here. There's just so much information, so much good stuff, Sigrun, to soak up, right? We're going to take a break right here. And when we come back, we're going to be talking about setting up and creating skills, going into a little defining what is a skill, and then tying all of that with why as entrepreneurs we need to be concerned about voice first and how can we leverage it as entrepreneurs to reach our markets. Let's take a break. And this review comes from C. Nielsen 30 out of the USA and says lots of great ideas and things to learn. Heneka is very relatable and I love her accent. Thank you so much, C. Nielsen 30 out of the USA. And remember to keep your reviews coming. I want to hear from you. It means a lot to me. And you can guess what? You can get the chance to hear it read live here on the Entrepreneurial You podcast. So keep them coming. I appreciate you. So you want to start your podcast, but you don't know where to host it. Go to HenecaWatkis-Porter.com and claim your 1 month free of podcast hosting on Blueberry. Or if you already have your host but aren't getting statistics on your podcast, you can claim 1 month free stats from Blueberry at HenecaWatkis-Porter.com. That's HenecaWatkis-Porter.com. Go right now and claim your 1 month free statistics.
We needed to raise capital, but our experience with local financial institutions was that they were cautious and slow to act, and interest rates were far too high. We had real concerns about financing our business through outside equity investors and the possibility of interference. Could we get a fair valuation for our business? We had our own ideas about the business and its value. Should I go the traditional route of bank financing, or should I try the Jamaica Stock Exchange? So we made a call and experienced transformation of our business through conversations. I'm John Mahfood, CEO of Jamaican Teas, and we're listed on the Jamaica Stock Exchange.
Give us a call today at 876-967-3271 to begin your transformation through conversation. We want to see your company listed on the Jamaica Stock Exchange.
Do you have a product or service to put out to the world, but you don't know where to begin? Do you have an idea for a blog, but think that having a website is just way too expensive? Do you want to start a website, but don't know where to begin? If you answered yes to any of these questions, visit HenekaWatkis-Porter.com and sign up to HostGator web hosting. For as little as $2.75 per month, you can have the perfect option for your small site or blog. You'll have user-friendly building tools and unlimited domains. Go to HenekaWatkis-Porter.com and sign up now for your perfect websites. Welcome back. And my conversation is with Sigrun, who is now using Voice First, and she's having a field day with it. I bumped into her pretty much after reading Gary Vee's book, Crushing It. And then doing my little research, it led me to her website. And I listened to her podcast episode on Voice First, and I invited her to come on the Entrepreneurial You to share with you, my peak performers, about Voice First. It isn't going anywhere, so don't think it's one of those things that is going to be a 9-day wonder. It is here to stay, and we've got to move with the trends. We got to move with the time. So welcome back, Sigrun. Thank you so much.
Hey, I'm having fun here with you.
Awesome. So now let's move into setting up and creating skills. But first of all, what is a skill?
A skill is something that you kind of pre-program or pre-set up. And Alexa or Amazon differentiates between a skill and a briefing. And I think that's a good way to say it. So a briefing is something like a podcast, really. If you can do a podcast, or if you know what a podcast is, then basically you can create briefing. So I created my briefing in a very similar way to my podcast. I decided it would be 90 seconds every day, and I just recorded 90-second episodes. I scripted them all up front, so I really knew how long it would be. And if you want to know how long a 90-second episode is, that's by 240 words. And I did a lot of testing, and then I just recorded. And there's no intro and outro really, because you want to keep it really short. I end my last sentence with, if you want to know how to build your lifestyle business, go to Sigrun.com. That's basically how I end my 90-second briefing. But otherwise, it's really to the point and pure information. And this is what people can sign up for. Mm-hmm. So they find me on the Amazon website or in the Alexa app, and they can sign up for the daily briefing.
Mm-hmm. And then that in turn, no, because like you mentioned, it's really brief, and it has to be brief because we recognize that people's attention span are getting shorter and shorter and shorter as we live in this microwave society. So when you are at the outro, being able to say, visit Sigrun.com for us, as an outro, then you're actually leading them into the other things that you're doing. So it's creating it's also marketing your other platforms as well.
Yeah, but it's really short. It's one sentence because there's no time to go deeper, and people are easily going to stop listening. It's one click in the button on the app to unsubscribe to a briefing. And if your briefing is too long or boring or too much advertisement, people are going to do that. I was trying to do my briefing 60 seconds. I didn't really manage. So I ended up with 90 seconds. Some people do longer, but I think it's going to be too much. So typically you're automatically signed up maybe for 2 briefings when you buy a new Alexa. You have the weather. So if you say something like, start my day, Alexa, start my day, it's going to play my briefings. So let's say it plays now currently my own briefing, obviously. When I hear that mine is working and going out there every day, it plays CNN and it plays Gary Vee. You don't have time for much more. Like if each briefing is 90 seconds, that's good. Then it ends with the weather. And if you are commuting to work, it will end with the commute. I took it off because I work from home. I have a home office, so I don't need to commute to work. Mm-hmm. So this is what a briefing is. It's relatively simple to set up. Actually, Amazon has fantastic instructions, and the process is very much similar to a podcast. You just record your episodes, you upload them to a platform. I use Libsyn, which is the same platform I use for my podcast. And then I sign up with Amazon and link it to the Libsyn feed that I've already created. Okay. That's it.
Question to you. So does it mean, do you have to have a separate website for that?
There's nothing on my website about this. Mm-hmm. It is just a feed on Libsyn. Mm-hmm. And connected to Amazon. So if you would come to my website, you would probably not know that I have a daily briefing on Alexa, because for me, I was trying to reach a different audience. I figured out that not everyone has an Alexa, and it's quite a new device. I think there are 80 million devices out there, and that's still not so much. There are other ways to get the content out there to people. Awesome. But Alexa's skill is a little bit different animal. Because if you ask Alexa, start happy hour, it actually is a skill. There's a company out there, alcoholic company, that has created a fun skill around happy hour. It is assuming that you have a certain drink at home, and it's asking you, do you have white, brown, or black one, the version of it? And then you answer back, and it answers you back. But you can imagine this gets very complicated. So you have to program this. You have to anticipate all the questions that can come up. It's not like the podcast episode or the briefing I was just describing before. This is really kind of making up in your head the conversation that can happen. So let's say we were programming this. We would say, okay, start happy hour. Obviously, we start this skill. And we would ask, do you have the brown drink, the blue drink, or the red drink? And the person would say, I have the red drink. Oh, great, you have the red drink. You would have to write like 3 different versions. And then every version after that maybe also has 2, 3 options. And suddenly you get quite a complicated setup.
Right. It's just like, I'm thinking, as you say that, I'm thinking about Siri and what must have gone on in that programming. So every time you ask a question, it comes up with these things, and like, no, I can't find that. But at least and even Siri isn't that difficult, it's not challenging. It's more straightforward than that.
Yeah. So what I'm seeing, because the Alexa skill is a little bit more difficult, there's more work that goes into it. You need to hire a programmer. There is actually an app out there that can help you create this. But ultimately, if you want to create a good skill, you will end up needing some kind of a programmer or have programming skills yourselves. So what I'm seeing is that many of the skills that are created are companies. We're talking about a company that ultimately wants to sell a product, like in this case, the alcoholic drink, or there's a company that basically is just building a brand. A CNN would be also likely one to have a skill, media companies. And the briefings, I would say anyone can do. You can be a solo entrepreneur, you can have really small business, and you can still do a briefing because it's very similar to a podcast. And what's great about Voice First, it's not like a social media channel. So let's say if there's a new Facebook tool that comes out there and I have to build up my profile, I have to do marketing, I have to post every day. The Alexa briefing, it's uploaded, it's there. Yes, it's good if I market it, but Amazon is kind of marketing it for you. If you are quick at getting reviews, let's say you try to get 20, 30 reviews quickly after you launch an Alexa briefing, it's very likely that you'll come up. And if you are consistent and daily active like I am, ultimately people will say it. There are a lot of people who started Alexa briefings quickly and then they gave up. They have stopped. Or they have no reviews. So the audience will quickly, see that. And the ones that are really putting out valuable content, they will go up in the search. Mm-hmm. But it's important to start now for one reason, for instance, is to claim a name. There is actually an Alexa briefing that has the name Inspire Me. And if I go to Alexa and say, Alexa, inspire me, what do you think comes up?
Motivational stuff.
Yeah, but only from this particular person.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, because the difference between Voice First and, when you type in a search, when I type in something, I search something on Google, I get 10 results. And then I get multiple pages if I want to scroll and check something further. On a Voice First device, typically I get 1 recommendation, maybe 2 or 3 if I ask for it. That's the danger of not jumping onto these devices until later. So if somebody else has taken your name, let's say if there is someone else that says, oh, Entrepreneurial You, or Inspire Me, I'm an entrepreneur, or blah, blah, it will come with 3 suggestions. If yours is not among the 3 top, then it's going to be hard to cut through the noise.
All right, you mentioned about, how the briefing is, better for solo entrepreneurs to even consider. Now, it's a good point to segue into why should entrepreneurs in general, whether they are solopreneurs or they have partnerships or limited liability companies, whatever the format, why should entrepreneurs consider Voice First and see it as a viable medium to be a part of?
It's about omnipresence. Facebook, the reach has gone down. Instagram, you have to post every day, you have to write a blog post, be very exciting. Like, it's kind of hard to grow your audience, to grow your reach without a lot of effort or ads. If you throw money at it, you're going to get something back. Otherwise, it's your time investment. What's so great about Voice First Devices is that it takes me about 2 days a month to script 30 90-second episodes and record them. Once I'm finished with 365 days, they can rotate in the future. I could create new ones, but because my episodes are classical, they're mindset, they're general business strategy, they're classical in a sense that they don't outdate. I think I had one episode where I felt like, this could outdate. So I've taken note of that. So for next year, I will definitely switch that one out. And maybe I'll switch a few out because, I like to talk about new things, but I make sure that my briefing is not something that outdates so easily. On my podcast, I may talk about my last launch, or I might talk about upcoming Christmas or whatever. But on the briefings, I make sure it's timeless.
Right. And it's only 90 seconds. So, you don't have a lot of time. You have to use that real estate really, really well. I have a question, an audience question on Facebook, and it comes from Keisha George. And of course, she lives in Trinidad, right? So her question is, how could the Caribbean jump on the Voice First ship early?
So the best way that I found, and I found this process to be quite easy and seamless, especially because I had a podcast already. If you don't have a podcast and go to Voice First, I think that's maybe not so good. I would start with a podcast. Once you know that you are willing and able to run a podcast, and maybe you have a weekly episode, now there's a chance to take that content that you create there and repurpose it. So most of the content that I have in my Alexa briefings is content from somewhere else. I'm not inventing necessarily the wheel. I'm taking snippets from podcast episodes, something that's timeless. And you basically just record it, as we said before, your things, you create a separate feed. It's like a podcast. And then you need to launch it, and you launch it on social media. You mention it in your podcast, things like that. Why should you join? We just said that before. It is hard to get a new audience. So Amazon and Google and Siri, these are all search engines, and people are ultimately going to find you. Now, I named my Alexa briefing Sigrun Sparks. So it's not like Inspire Me or Build My Business or something, which is probably better. But I am building a brand around my name, so I am calling everything Sigrun something. But you can have a subtitle, you can have a description. And when somebody now on Amazon.com types in my name, even if I don't have a book, the Alexa briefing will come up.
We are not supposed to allow these opportunities to pass us by. We want to jump on the ship, as Keisha puts it, early, and not wait until it has sailed, all the way out into the ocean before we're trying to, get those little boats to take us out there so that we can get on the big ship. Yeah.
Yeah. The key is that now there are, let's say, 40,000 Alexa briefings and 80 million devices. So next year there might be double or triple briefings. Those who jump in earlier and claim a space or a name or start to talk about a topic that maybe nobody else is talking about, they have the chance to be up in the search.
We are coming to a close right now, and I know, Sigrun, that you have, as you mentioned to me before we came on, that you have something that our peak performers can be a beneficiary of. So I'd love for you to share that, and also share with us your contact information.
My website is sigrun.com. My main giveaway, the one that I also treasure the most, is a 7-part video series called 7 Stages of Profitable Online Business. It is case studies from my own business, how I went to 6 figures and ultimately went to 7 figures. And each video is 30 minutes. It includes the slides and also some checklists. And it's a really fantastic way, if you're anywhere on this journey of building a profitable online business, to get some insights in how you can do it too.
That is amazing. And I'll also be checking that out, and I'm sure peak performers will be checking that out as well. So your website and your social media platforms that you're a part of.
Yeah. You will find me anywhere. The handle is Sigrun.com on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, even on Pinterest. LinkedIn, of course.
Peak performers, are you as excited as I am as I'm listening to Sigrun talked about, as I listened to her rather, talked about Voice First, and we went through the various platforms, Google, Apple, Amazon, and what to even expect from Facebook, how it is as entrepreneurs we need and why we need to jump on this ship right now before it sails deep into the ocean. It has already sailed, but there's some, we can still catch on, we can still jump on board. So we need to do that and do it early before everybody comes on board, and then there is very limited space. Of course, there's always going to be space, but then we would have missed a lot of the opportunity of being early. So thank you so much, Sigrun. It has been an amazing pleasure talking with you. I enjoyed our conversation, and I look forward to seeing what you're up to and wishing you every success as you continue on your onward journey.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure to talk to you.
So my peak performance, as you know, it does take hours of work to produce one 30-minute episode of the Entrepreneurial You podcast, and I really love it. I enjoy it immensely. But you've been listening for a while and you've been thinking to yourself, if only there was a way to make a contribution to this amazing work. Well, now there is. For as little as $2 per month, you can be a part of this movement. You can contribute because you're already a part. You can contribute to this movement. It will really go a far way. As we say in Jamaica, every mickle make a muckle. So simply go to patreon.com/TEY to find out how. That's patreon.com/TEY to learn how you can make a contribution directly to this movement. And of course, there are several perks right there awaiting you. So go right ahead and sign up, make a commitment to this great movement. Now, if you're looking for some great resources, some excellent resources to peak your performance, visit the resources page on Watkis-Porter.com to gain access. Of course, all the products and services that are listed are ones that I actually use and I can recommend. They have been helping me immensely in my quest to level up, and I know that they will help you too. We have come to the end of another great episode of the Entrepreneurial You podcast. Remember to subscribe in Apple Podcasts and download all the episodes that you would have missed if you have not already subscribed and downloaded the episodes, and play them to the end as well, because good stuff is always at the end too. So do that, as well as go and leave a rate and review right now. I'd appreciate that. It helps a lot because I put a lot of effort into creating this free content, and it does help when I know that it is of significant value to you. So show your love by going to Apple Podcasts and just leave a rate and review. And when you leave that review, do send me an email at henekawatkisporter@gmail.com, because I'd love to be able to read them in an upcoming episode. And if I'm not notified, I won't know it's there, because unless you go into all the different stores in Apple, there is no way that I can actually know that a review was left or a current review was left. So it's important that when you leave your review, you send me an email, let me know about it so I can go look for it and read it live on an episode of the Entrepreneurial You podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm Heneka Watkis-Porter. Remember, you were born to win, but to be a winner, you must plan to win, prepare to win, and expect to win. Walk good.